Hello everyone, I'm Keith Haas, a graduate student in the Communication and Media Studies program at Rutgers University. After plenty of research and work towards developing a prototype, I am happy to introduce HyperStory. Before I share the application in its current form, I would like to explain what HyperStory is, the state of news and news apps today, and how HyperStory stands out from all of those other apps. HyperStory is all about giving everyone the opportunity to add their voice to a news story, contributing to stories alongside those of professional journalists. According to Zeynep Tufekci, citizen journalism can document newsworthy events, memes generated by members of networked publics can affect national conversations, and online spectacles can help shape public agenda. As citizen journalism has become a commonplace in society today, HyperStory seeks to legitimize the stories on a hyperlocal level being shared by individuals. In addition to all of this, a major goal of HyperStory is to have people in younger demographics actively using the app and value the practice of journalism. So what should news be? At the core of the HyperStory concept, we want to stress the importance of unbiased, nonpartisan news. An outlook that I personally agree with was one that was suggested by Herbert Gans, in which news media should be multi-perspectival, as much of the news presented by major outlets today reflects the interests of those in upper middle classes and may not show the full picture of the events that we see presented. Who's consuming news content? Young people from ages 18 through 29 are more likely to get their news online than adults 50 and older. However, more individuals in older age brackets follow the news than those in younger demographics overall. In addition to this, in an article published by the newspaper research journal, Kelly Caulfield suggests that Americans less than 40 have shunned traditional news outlets much more dramatically than have older Americans, fueling a steady increase in average age among news consumers. Getting a look at mobile news in the present day, in an article published by Journalism and Mass Communication Quarterly, it was stated that mobile news consumers are more likely to follow news frequently, use multiple news sources, seek practical utilities from news information, value portal news sites, share content with others, and be receptive to advertising campaigns, especially those via social media. All ideas and practices that we took into consideration when coming up with the HyperStory prototype. While some of these ideas are applied here in HyperStory, others have been tweaked upon. So many news outlets today have their own mobile applications, and they've been continually integrating geolocation to provide users with local news. This is for the benefit of the news consumer, as it enhances their experiences by giving them a clear understanding of where an event occurred. However, these numbers vary among different outlets that focus on, different mediums. For instance, while 61.5% of television stations use location-based services, only 40% of newspapers utilize this in their apps. Going off of this briefly, print news is in a major decline and many outlets are being forced to adapt to the new world of news. News outlets must now try to diversify their business to maximize profits by utilizing new technology, but the outlets that you see falling behind are those not taking enough action to further their reach to the consumer by digital means. As seen previously with newspapers in particularly, traditional news outlets are falling behind as they are not catching up to digital trends, and as a result, they are now becoming less relevant. Of course, when coming up with the HyperStory concept, we had to do research on apps that would be competing with us. And upon doing this research, an app that stuck out initially with a similar premise was NewsVoice. While this app tries to be unbiased and advertises itself as an unbiased source, a large number of users claim to be turned off by the heavily biased comments section in the app, particularly featuring far-right views in this case. Another app that encouraged citizen journalism was CNN's iReport, which let users post pictures and videos for CNN to use in their own reports. Not only was this app not necessarily focused on hyperlocal stories, but this version of iReport was discontinued as a result of social media's presence in the world of citizen journalism, In its current iteration, users submit content through the use of hashtag #CNNIReport. In terms of hyperlocal news apps, however, the Patch app has received a lot of positive attention, receiving over 4 stars in both the Apple and Android app stores. Users of the app are able to follow and be notified about multiple communities. However, the reviewers have found that the app is repetitive and boring in some cases, in addition to it being pointed out that there aren't even many reporters sharing the stories in a given territory. Which is where we come to the uniqueness of HyperStory. Instead of stories coming from simply one post or source in HyperStory, cues are generated within the app specifically to organize multiple articles and posts into their own sections, adding multiple angles to a story. And based on the research that was done, the target audience are those in the age demographic between 18 and 40 years of age, more so looking at the younger side of that bracket. In addition to the participatory culture of citizen journalism, organizing journalism and media events is a major way in which HyperStory and the people behind the application would try to encourage younger generations to see the importance and quality the importance of quality, unbiased news and potentially inspire future journalists. Spinning a positive image around the culture and practice of journalism is the biggest reason as to why HyperStory is worth developing. These lectures hosted by HyperStory will showcase experienced journalists and important members of the field in real-life settings and live video streams through the app or the website. And registration to partake in these events is done through the app itself. There are no plans of having a paywall as a means of encouraging many users to try out the app out of the gate, but there is an inclusion of advertisements promoting local establishments and similar ads to those you see on social media feeds, as I'm about to discuss that you'll be able to connect your social media accounts to the app. When speaking about the uniqueness of HyperStory, I mentioned the option to partake in journalism and media events. Much of this will have to do with collaborations between HyperStory and colleges. To help ensure the success of HyperStory, it would also be sought to have collaborations with social media entities that already have a strong mainstream presence, such as Twitter and Facebook. This goes back to the uniqueness of HyperStory again, as since news and posts are already collected onto the app right from these sources, there is no need for hashtags like CNN uses for its citizen journalism program. That being said, the app fully embraces an already present social media culture. Collaborations with reputable news outlets would also be sought after. With a focus on hyperlocal news, we would love to share stories and articles written and produced by local newspapers to be posted alongside the citizen social media posts being distributed by us. This would only benefit the local newspaper industry, as this will help them become more relevant as HyperStory users would read and share their stories. Since mobile news consumers are more likely to use multiple news sources, this app is set out to be the one place to get your news from a bunch of different sources because of the collaborations that were thought up. It's important to stress trust as well when talking about these collaborations, as news bias and false stories is a big concern for people, so trust is an integral aspect to address. Prioritizing posts from verified or official accounts is one way HyperStory would seek to gain the trust of users. Playing off of this, an online newspaper presence would also bring a sense of trustworthiness in association with citizen stories, adding support to the posts that are being shared. A college and university presence can also add to the legitimacy of HyperStory with the idea of potential partnerships with their journalism departments. In terms of the user experience in regards to trust, for your social media posts to be featured on the HyperStory app, you have to connect at least one of your social media profiles to the app for your posts to show up. All of this being said, we have to look at the process of development. Hypothetically, ideally soon after this point of development in which I'm speaking to you, both iOS and Android developers would be brought onto the team to further improve upon the user interface from the current iteration of the app, as not all the options presented in the prototype function accordingly in this early stage. A few months into developing the user interface, the back-end and front-end servers and the application programming interface, or API, to have the app function properly, we would start meeting up with social media companies to form partnerships. If in association with Twitter, they already have an API which allows tweets to be used on various platforms, and that could easily be integrated into this app. Once we're able to integrate posts from those social media platforms, we would test HyperStory with and without AI that detects biased perspectives. Towards the end of this phase in development, we would seek to collaborate with newspapers and college journalism programs to test the app. While we do this, we would be able to get feedback from journalism professors and students on what areas might need improvement, like, does the app function? How much media bias is present and how can it be better addressed? Getting feedback from this group of people is integral, as their background and knowledge, in addition to them being in the age bracket we're trying to attract, will give us honest criticism of the prototype that they're testing. Once the app is deployed following this, and any changes are made into the response of the testing, the app will initially be marketed in college towns and major cities to get a better feel of where the user base is located. You might have noticed in one of the bullets I said test with college journalism programs after roughly a year of development. This entire process to have a sleek, functioning, early iteration of HyperStory to the public would take about a year of development minimum, as a large dataset would have to be constructed to ensure the complicated AI is properly trained to make connections between various user posts on social media onto the app. This is a complicated application, and computer scientists need time to train the AI needed for this app to work as proposed. Which also goes into the hyperlocal aspect, which complicates things even further. As established before, the use of geolocated news stories, though growing, still lacks a presence. This is an area that can be filled by HyperStory. To reinforce an individual's take on a local story as someone who is in the vicinity of the event or topic, HyperStory will gather and organize publicly posted tweets based on their geolocation, tweets with a specific point coordinate attached to them, which are based on their general latitude and longitude, and a Twitter place, which is a location that is based on an area designated by 4 individual latitude and longitude coordinates. All of this data is collected and processed to determine which stories are related to each other. Information on both keywords in public posts and their location they were posted are used to organized queues to build upon certain stories. So it's also important to note that perhaps HyperStory users who have their social media accounts linked to the app don't want their posts to be shared on HyperStory. To address this, if the AI chooses to utilize their social posts, users will get a push notification and an email telling them that their post has been shared and they have the option to have it removed from HyperStory. Finally, this brings us to our prototype. The goal of the prototype was to keep the options featured on each page and the overall design of the application simple to ensure an easy experience for the users. So let me create an account right here for you with my personal Gmail. Password should be more secure than that, people. I had no numbers there. Signing up, you'll find the terms of service, which you will agree to and able to use the app. Or maybe you already have an account. Sign in here. And here we are, the home page of HyperStory. As you can see here, here are 3 queues that were set up, well, not actual queues, but models of queues that would be set up if the proper AI was implemented. So let's take a look at what's happening with New York City schools. So this queue here features different tweets, and I must also note that only tweets have been featured in this app, no articles or anything else. So here's a tweet by Mayor de Blasio that was shared. You could see here that you could save and unsave articles, share the story right onto your social media account, or if you see a potential bias, as mentioned before, you can report it. You might also notice a few other things on this page. For instance, if you have trouble reading, you can hit the speaker here to have the content on the page read to you. For also user convenience, there's a microphone setting so you can talk to the app to direct where you want to go. However, this is not functioning in this version of the prototype. Let's come back. Also, this up here, HyperStory, serves to bring you right back to the home page. Let's look at a couple more stories here. So, what are people saying about the Rockefeller Center Christmas tree? How about last year's Rockefeller Xmas tree when I was there compared to this year's? Oof. Okay. How about New Jersey COVID-19 testing? As you can see here, here are tweets. Here's one tweet launched by a New Jersey town. Taking priority and precedence, adding to trusts on the app. What is this symbol right down here, though? This is your HyperStory profile. So you see here Keith's profile. Before we go to the university section, let's look at the saved stories to see what else is featured. Oh, well, this is actually featured in the college section. Here's de Blasio's tweet again. And here is the Township of Washington tweet regarding COVID testing again in Bergen County. Looking at the university, I have set up the app specifically for Rutgers University, and I will show you how to link up colleges later. The featured story here is Rutgers beats Purdue, at least in the time that was relevant when I was creating the prototype. So, praise for Schiano here. What a victory. And let's look at events and talks. Well, there's a familiar face here. These are the events and talks that will be hosted by HyperStory. Let's look at John Pavlik, virtual events, January 15th at 7 p.m. Join John Pavlik as he discusses innovations in technology and how they've impacted the journalism industry and our daily lives in this digital event hosted by HyperStory. All participants can view the conversation and ask Pavlik questions on the HyperStory mobile application or website. Registration is below. Registration button doesn't function. As you can see here, we also have a general lecture hosted by HyperStory and another featured event featuring, well, Lester Holt in this case. Now, it's also important to address the user settings. Oh, it's just delayed. There we go. First, with the hyperlocal aspect of the app, location is integral. This button up here, you can allow for GPS location, but if you don't want to give the app permission To share the phone's location, you could enter your town or zip code here if you feel more comfortable with that, and that should be registered. Accessibility, I mean, there's already a couple things featured before between the microphone and the speaker icons. We go further with this. First, you have different language selections. You have English, which is the default here, Spanish, French, Italian, Chinese, Japanese, and Korean. But we are going to stick with English in this case. As options to also change the font size. We want it smaller. Do we want to keep it the same? Do we want it large? Or do we just want to have it bold? Color and display is also important. We have the regular display. We have high contrast text, or instead a high contrast screen, or black and white if that's easier for the eyes for you. If there are any tweets or posts shared with videos, you have the option for closed caption. You could zoom into the screen if you are having trouble reading, and for your convenience, you could also auto-rotate the screen. And of course, notifications are important, and I mentioned notifications before. So going beyond the push notifications, which are a default if you are logged into social media, you could also receive daily updates that you might be interested in. Receive updates on HyperStory events, like those I showed you in the college section. And you can receive reminders for events as well. Linking your social media is easy. Here's both the Twitter and the Facebook. Let's connect to Facebook. You can connect to Facebook if you're not linked to it, but if you already have your account linked, you can press here to disconnect from Facebook. But if I want to connect back, you have the option to enter your email here linked up to your Facebook account and enter the password. Done. And the Twitter, you'll find the same exact thing. Connecting to college is also easy. So, attending college. You also have sign out options and delete account. Do we want to sign out right now? Both the sign out and delete account will take you to the same page, but with different results. If you delete your account and it's gone for good, but yeah. So that was HyperStory. So there's a lot to go through there, and I wish the app was able to function properly, but as I explained, digging into this, it's a year's work at least to have it function properly. So I hope you at least get an idea of what the app is and the potential to better the world of citizen journalism.